Efficacy of vaccines in older people is always a huge challenge. It turns out the flu vaccine isn't that effective in elderly people. Most of the benefit comes from younger people not spreading it because they're vaccinated, and that benefits on a community basis the elderly. Here, we clearly need a vaccine that works in the upper age range because they're most at risk of that. And doing that so that you amp it up so it works in older people and yet you don't have side effects. If we have 1 in 10,000 side effects, that's way more, 700,000 people who will suffer from that. So really understanding the safety at gigantic scale across all age ranges, pregnant, male, female, undernourished, existing comorbidities, it's very, very hard. And that actual decision of, okay, let's go and give this vaccine to the entire world, governments will have to be involved because there will be some risk and indemnification needed before that can be decided on.
If you didn't know, indemnification means compensation for harm or loss, which means if you do get a side effect or you do have a bad effect, they're not responsible for it.
The side effects were not super severe. That is, it didn't cause permanent health problems for the things there.
As I understand it, then, from what you're saying, is that it may be that there needs to be some compromise in some of the safety measures that would normally be expected to create a vaccine because time is so crucial.
Well, of course, if you want to wait and see if a side effect shows up 2 years later, that takes 2 years. So
with all that being said, knowing that they're actually going to try to force you to get it, isn't this kind of psychotic? I'm not an anti-vaxxer, just like I'm not an anti-piller if I suggest I don't want the government to force 15 pills down my throat or tell me that I have to take perhaps the most rushed pill in modern history. That doesn't make me an anti-piller. I'm not an anti-juicer because I don't like certain juices, so why in the world would they try to falsely smear anybody that doesn't want the mandatory vaccine that they're openly admitting they can't possibly study long-term side effects? It's one of the most, if not the most, rushed through safety trials that we've ever had, nicknamed Operation Warp Speed. The side effects are obvious, and the risk is so real that they need to be protected from liability in order to even greenlight this because they'll probably lose a lot of money if they don't. So when are we going back to normal, and are we going back to normal? I try to be as objective as I possibly can, but my personal perspective is we're not going to go back to normal because nobody even cares how we're counting, how they're counting cases, how they're counting deaths. I've done 2 videos on it, how they're counting the deaths and how they're counting the cases. If you can't figure out how they're counting cases and how they're counting deaths, if it's anything like the flu or the common cold and it doesn't go away, the numbers are never going to go down. We've never had a mass testing campaign like this in perhaps United States history. We've never had this much fear-mongering. I'm not sure if we've ever counted a death like this. Maybe we have and I don't know, but...
Technically, even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death. So everyone who's listed as a COVID death doesn't mean that that was the cause of the death, but they had COVID at the time of death. I hope that's helpful.